What's up, y'all? You're watching Union Minded. I'm your host, Eric, and today we are going to talk about something that you're probably already aware of, but I haven't covered it yet, so I'm doing my due diligence and covering it anyway in case you haven't heard. And that is that Trump fired a senior labor board official in an unprecedented and illegal move. Gwen Wilcox was fired from the National Labor Relations Board. Essentially stopping labor law enforcement. If you watch my channel, then you know that we've talked about the NLRB and how it is the referee between the owners and the workers, the bosses and the workers. The NLRB is the referee that was created because prior to the National Labor Relations Act, there was so much labor upheaval because workers were fighting back against the bosses that it was affecting the economy. And because it was affecting the economy, the United States government decided it made sense to create this friendly environment that preferred collective bargaining over striking and supported worker rights. That's where the NLRA came from. It came out of the volatility of the relationship between the bosses and the workers, because workers knew they weren't getting a fair share. They also knew that they were being abused and they were tired of it. A lot of y'all don't know what the working conditions were back then because, you know, you got it glancingly in American history and never really picked up a book to dive in and really find out where we come from. But the work environment back then was very low pay, no overtime, and you worked 7 days a week. And if you couldn't afford school, your children worked. A lot of times you worked in a company town and earned company script and had to buy things from the company store. There wasn't a lot of freedom for working people back then. The NLRB came out of the struggle and was in place as the guard, the referee between the bosses and the workers to prevent the same type of strife and upheaval that happens when there's no referee in the game. Let's read about what happened. Here we go. Trump fires senior labor board official in unprecedented and illegal move. Gwen Wilcox pledges to challenge the decision after dismissal in effect paralyzes the National Labor Relations Board. This is out of The Guardian. Donald Trump has fired a senior official at the top U.S. labor watchdog, triggering a chorus of criticism from unions and in effect paralyzing the body until a replacement is confirmed. Gwen Wilcox, a member and former chair of the NLRB, described her dismissal as unprecedented and illegal and pledged to challenge the move. Her removal leaves the board with only 2 members and leaves it without a quorum of 3 members required to issue decisions. This per a 2010 Supreme Court ruling. Wilcox was confirmed by the Senate and her term was due to continue until August 2028. She had been appointed chair of the NLRB by Biden last month, before Trump appointed Marvin Kaplan, a Republican-appointed member, as chair last week. It's been an honor to serve as a board member and chair of the National Labor Relations Board, Wilcox said in a statement. As the first black woman board member, I brought a unique perspective that I believe will be lost upon my unprecedented and illegal removal. Throughout my time at the NLRB, I've worked well with my colleagues and the dedicated career staff who uphold the mission of the agency. I will be pursuing all legal avenues to challenge my removal, which violates long-standing Supreme Court precedent. The NLRB's General Counsel, Jennifer Abruzzo, was also fired. The Deputy General Counsel, Jessica Rutter, is now serving as Acting General Counsel. On Abruzzo's watch, several corporations, including Elon Musk's SpaceX and Amazon, have challenged the constitutionality of the NLRB based on limitations of the president's ability to remove members of the board. The reason the president has an inability to remove members of the board is because the board is supposed to stand as the watchdog against the bosses for the workers. It's the mediator. So a president shouldn't be able to influence one way or the other too much how that watchdog operates. There was a protection built into it. The National Labor Relations Act authorizes the president to remove members of the board only under narrow circumstances of negligence, of duty of malfeasance, which has typically left board members to serve out their terms during presidential administration changes. The NLRB accomplished so much through our robust education, protection, and enforcement efforts, Abruzzo said in a statement. There's no putting that genie back in the bottle. So if the agency does not fully effectuate its congressional mandate in the future as we did during my tenure, I expect the workers, with assistance from their advocates, will take matters into their own hands in order to get well-deserved dignity and respect in the workplace, as well as a fair share of the significant value they add to their employers' operations. Make no mistake, the employers make no money if the workers don't work. That's it. That's the bottom line. If you don't spin those wrenches, the bosses don't get paid. Bottom line. We are what drive profits. Liz Schuler, president of the AFL-CIO, the largest federation of unions in the U.S., representing 61 national and international unions, said, President Trump's firing of NLRB member Gwen Wilcox, the first black woman to serve on the board, is illegal and will have immediate consequences for working people. Trump's decision has effectively shut down the NLRB's operations, Schuler said, leaving the workers it defends on their own in the face of union busting and retaliation. These moves will make it easier for bosses to violate the law and trample on workers' legal rights on the job and fundamental freedom to organize, she added. Becky Pringle, president of the National Education Association, the country's biggest union, described the firing of Wilcox as a gross abuse of power, which should alarm anyone who is not a CEO or billionaire. NLRB's rulings on important worker rights and organizing cases will grind to a halt, said Pringle. Trump is giving a gift to donors, and we are all paying the price. Every member of Congress has an obligation to tell the president that they will not tolerate this kind of imperial declaration. That's the end of the article. So I tried to tell you guys, know what ladder rung you're on and stop waiting for your saving to come from the bosses. The bosses don't do the saving. The saving comes from us. And the way we save ourselves is to understand, like they did before the NLRA was ever enacted, when they had so much solidarity and they cared so much for each other. And it wasn't just within a union, it was across unions. It was across working trades. They did that because they understood our power is in our collective action. It's not in any one person's action, it's in our collective action. And when we act collectively, that's when we exercise our power, and that's when we get our fair share, and that's when we improve working conditions and community standards for everybody. Unions are meant to be the vanguard. We are the front line. We are not the bosses. You are not a capitalist. You don't invest capital and earn your living that way. If you do, then you're not a trade unionist. There's no in between here. You're either a worker or you're not. And 97% of people that live in the United States and around the world are workers. If you have to work to support your family, you are a worker. I don't care if you make 200 grand a year. Something happens to you and that income goes away, you are a worker. You will be a poor person like the rest of us. By the grace of God, you're able to keep going to work. My name's Eric. You're watching Union Minded. Remember that the fight's not left and right. It's up and down. It's going to take solidarity to win always. Each one teach one. Get out there and reach one. And remember, there could be no union without you and I front and center. So let's go. Peace.